Welcome to the RV Small Talk podcast, where we talk about lightweight trailers, truck campers, and the people, places, and adventures that go along with them. We're your hosts from Princess Craft RV. I'm Lindsay.
I'm PJ.
I'm Clint, and we thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
This week, let's talk about slide outs on your camper. A lot of people love them because of the space and the features that they bring in, and a lot of people are wary of them because of possible braking or seal issues or mechanics or what have you. So let's talk about them. Also, we get questions here all the time at the dealership here at Princess Craft RV, and some of them are really good just because they're deep questions. They're a thinker question. What do you do in this situation? What do you know about this aspect of the RV that I'm looking at? So we compiled a few of them, and we'll bring them up. We'll answer some questions here on the podcast. So sit back, hold on tight. Let's do a podcast.
Let's do it.
Go.
Let's talk about those slides.
Let's do. You know, slide outs are something that I think when people come in and they're trying to pick out what trailer they want, slide outs is always part of the equation, you know?
There's some added benefits, but there's also some complexity and maybe some more maintenance. And then there's some horror stories.
That's right. Most people come in and they say, you know, I have to have a slide out. It's just too small otherwise.
Yeah.
And then there are the people that come in and say, I don't want to slide out. You will not believe what happened to us, and I will never again have a slide out.
I seem to remember we had someone who told us a story of a camper that they were in the middle of the night, and they were sleeping, and a slide just started coming in. I don't know what would cause that.
That can't be true.
But it would be a terrifying experience.
No, totally scary.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta wonder.
I feel like a lot of the horror stories that I hear from customers or customers who are adamant about not having a slide have actually never had a slide before, but it's one of those things that they heard from somebody else when 15 years ago and this, so they just don't mess with it.
I had an uncle who had a brother-in-law, and one time when he was driving and his grandpa had fit, and it came out on the, I mean, you just hear all kinds of stories, and they worry that something terrible will happen.
And I feel like a lot of the history, the bad history of slide outs were, as with any technology, closer to the early days.
I was about to say, slides have come a long way. So these horror stories that you hear are often from a long time ago when they were made differently. They're different now. So let's start with the good things about
benefits.
Slides.
Yes.
Especially when you're dealing with smaller trailers like we usually do here, a slide is going to add so much more room. I mean, sometimes it almost doubles the size of some of these small trailers.
Well, even the truck campers. Can you imagine how massive the host truck campers are now? Oh my gosh.
3
if
slides
you guys
in that
haven't
thing.
seen truck campers lately, we have truck campers here with 3 slides.
It's crazy. I mean, you forget you're in the back of a truck.
It's crazy.
Insane.
Well, they're big enough that they have washing machines and fireplaces in them.
Did you know that there are some truck campers that have been made with 4 slides?
Where do you put the 4th slide?
I don't want to see that.
Up in the bed
on a truck
area and the cab over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's out there. So, it was out there.
So onto the good points of a slide. Increases the space and may even make other rooms that you wouldn't have. Let's say you push out a slide that has some more seating and suddenly you have a little bit of a lounge area or a den.
That's right. When space is the most important thing, then slide outs are really important, especially if you've got 2 people who are moving around a lot. If you don't have a slide out, you're going to have to squeeze past each other on occasion. That's just part of the gig, right? And if you spend the majority of your time inside your trailer when you're camping, that can be really annoying if you have to always worry about passing each other.
Right.
So I think that's the first thing to think about, because when you put those slide outs in, you've got a room. And it's really great when you put a slide out on each side. If those slide outs are across from each other,
Sure.
You've literally just created a room like your house. So I think if that's something that makes a difference when you're camping, it's important. Now, what about slide outs in bedrooms?
Well, it'll create the walk around bed if you don't already have that. And you usually get a lot more closet space, storage space, storage in general, not just in the bedroom, but you're going to get added storage with a slide out.
That's right. Not just more walking space, more storage space.
Right. Would you say that the majority of floor plans that manufacturers are making out there nowadays have slide outs, whereas 20 years ago wasn't so much?
Oh, yeah. I think most of the major brands are going to have slide outs, but I think there's kind of a new craze now. I think it kind of coupled with the tiny trailer boom of, maybe I don't need that slide out. I want simple. I want easy. I want lightweight. A lot of the slide outs now with the new Schwintek system, they only add about 150 pounds. They don't add all that much. It is amazing. They used to add a significant weight. But now if people are really using their trailer and spending most of their time outside, the slide out is unnecessary and it just is an added piece of equipment to deal with. And so I think now there's a lot of trailers that are now coming out without slides.
Take, for instance, the new Lance 2075.
That's right. We just did that video last week.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
I really like it.
It's not a dance floor, though.
No, but it's enough room to not have to like turn sideways and shuffle down the hall.
That's true. That's true. I mean, and the Avia that New Camp makes that we carry.
Another good one.
Manufacturers, especially the higher end ones, are now trying to be sure they have a non-slide version out there.
Some of them have been doing it the whole time, like Airstream.
And then there's Airstream.
Have they ever had a slide out on a trailer that I know? Not that I know of.
So, I mean, how do you complain about that? So slide outs.
You don't complain about that.
Don't complain. Yes. So I think if you really enjoy the space and want a little bit more storage, I find that you get more storage mostly in the bedroom, but you get a little more. It feels better.
Well, slide outs sometimes make for a bigger dinette, and if you have storage underneath your dinette, you get a little bit more storage there.
Yeah. If you're camping with 4 people, and especially if it's a family, wow. A non-slide can be really tough with 4 people.
Yeah.
That's tough.
So with a trailer or a truck camper, they have a slide out. Obviously, you get space and some usability, maybe some more storage, but you also get a little bit more responsibility.
Yep,
it's true. You have to do maintenance on it, unfortunately.
So what does maintenance entail? How hard is maintenance on a slide out?
I mean, I don't know. I've never actually done it.
Well, that's being honest with you, right?
But I've heard it explained to other people. Honestly, if you want that added luxury, if you wanted that added space, you have to work for it. So
you have to work for
I'm just saying, you do.
Well, you do have to pay attention.
You have to grease some stuff.
Yeah,
grease some stuff.
Lube it up.
You got to grease some stuff.
Sure. The mechanics of it, because there's different ways that they do it, from electric gearing
right,
ratios.
There's gears that make it go in and out. They need
anything that's a moving part and that has a friction point. Go ahead and make sure you have grease on those places. You don't want them to dry out, and you want them to move smoothly. And grease even keeps them somewhat clean and moisture protected as well.
That's right. And there are electric slides and hydraulic slides, and we're not going to get into the weeds on the technicalities.
Did you say electric slide?
But there are different kinds. There's 2 or 3 ones that you'll see on units out there. They're all going to have mechanical pieces on the outside. Because we don't want to get into the weeds of this. We want to help people understand it's not that hard. The mechanical pieces have to be cleaned, and they have to be lubricated every now and then.
It's not hard. It's just
like
something to do.
Else.
It takes a little time.
Yeah.
And you don't want to just get your WD and put it on it. You want to use, we use a spray here that's made for slides. It's a slide out spray.
Is it silicone based?
It's silicone based so that all the dirt doesn't stick to it as much. So you just clean it, make sure it's clean, and spray it, and you're done.
Yeah. And the other part would be the actual kind of rubberized seals that go around that keep the weather outside from coming in and also
that's right.
keep the efficiency going on.
Yeah.
It's good to condition those.
Yes.
And they're not that, I mean, even after years of fun and use, you might have to replace those, but that's not necessarily that big a deal.
That's right. And you know, what word did you use?
Maintain?
Condition them. No, basically you just put grease on them too. And that has to be the right kind of grease.
Okay.
And we use a spray here as well for that. And it's a slide out seal lubricant.
You just want it to be pliable and you want to make sure that it maintains contact with the surfaces that are moving back and forth.
Because when your slide out goes in and out, it has to flip back and forth and be sure it's a wiper seal. And then there's some other rubber seals in there that make it flip.
Yeah.
It's not a technical thing. It just has to stay rubbery and not dried out and not baked by the sun.
Yeah.
So that's what it's for. That's all.
And the thing is that that's the point that you need to be pliable so it remains contact. And you said it's a wiper seal. It kind of acts as a squeegee, kind of sliding against the slide. It keeps that seal so the weather isn't likely to come in, even in a strong breeze, no water or weather, or even it's supposed to keep out, rodents like squirrels and all that.
Bugs, air, dirt.
So if it's not conditioned,
it just seals your slide. Yeah. So once you get that part done, how hard is it?
Yeah. So the concerns of the past, sometimes it was the heaviness of them and that over time it could sag and droop and maybe even come off track and all that. They aren't as heavy now because they're building them out of lighter materials.
That's true.
I don't see that very often. I mean, at all.
Sometimes they do kind of just get out of alignment.
Right.
And that happens. And so I always recommend that one of the things you can do to maintain your slide out is to take a look at it when it's in and take a look at it when it's all the way out. Make sure it's seated correctly all the way around.
The seals are making contact all the way around.
All the way
it.
around the opening, whether it's from the outside when it's closed or from the inside when it's completely open. Because if that's the case, it's moving in and out, doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Now, they don't always meet at the same time. Some of them hit at the top and then they kick out a little.
Kind of cantilever.
I remember when I first started, that would freak me out.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was out of alignment. When it closes, it's like...
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And it's engineered that way.
Yeah.
It's designed
And
for that.
Totally,
it's a good thing this is video.
It makes
your hand
sense, right?
signals
I know. So if you're listening, I'm sorry, but you know what I mean. The other thing I think that's really important is the top of your slide. So you're moving it in and out every time you are camping and when you're done. But if stuff sits on top of your slide and then you bring it in, that's going to cause some damage. So you want to make sure
you might have a squirrel sleeping up there.
A whole squirrel nest.
Something sitting on top. Well, you said sitting on top. I don't know. I'm thinking
like
a squirrel.
leaves. Like if you
leaves.
if you park under,
Debris.
you playing dumb.
I just thought your description was funny. If something was sitting up there, so
Its entire family.
yeah,
You will squish it.
yes,
Leaves, sticks, branches.
yeah. You move your slide in, it's going to either drag all that stuff inside or it's going to rip up the seal.
Yeah.
And neither of which is a good idea. So if you have a slide out, the right way to do it is to crawl up there, take a peek, and be sure there's nothing up there.
Or get a slide topper. Those are handy.
Yep. You still need to check them though, because with the slide topper, things can still get on the top and roll into it, or you had a storm and things can blow underneath the slide topper.
Or
It's true.
that
There's
squirrel
space.
wants to get out of the sun and just takes a nap.
Resting in
Stop
there
with the poor squirrel.
Okay. Yeah. I have just to be clear, I have never heard of a squirrel being damaged on a slide topper.
Being damaged.
Well, I couldn't think of the right word. Okay.
Dying.
Getting squished. I was trying to be less
Squirrel
visible.
pancake.
That's right.
All right. Let's talk about we talked about some maintenance.
Before we go, I think we need to say one more thing about slide toppers.
Okay.
They are not the end all, okay? Slide toppers are wonderful. They keep the water from getting on the top and maybe running in over time. They protect the top of your slide out from sun damage and deterioration.
Yeah.
They keep the debris off. Here's the other thing they do. They flap in the wind. If you get a big wind or a storm, they flap and they can make all kinds of horrendous noises and whistling and flapping. And a lot of people put pool noodles up underneath their slide out covers to stop them from flapping. But
I swear, pool noodles are the most useful camping tool I've ever heard of.
I think it wins the prize.
We should do an entire podcast of what you can use a pool noodle for while you're camping, because I can think of at least 6 off the top of my head.
You know,
all right.
Bring
pool noodles. It's on our list.
Come to think of it, why don't we sell those?
Oh, we should.
We should.
We should sell pool noodles.
Just say Princess Craft on the side.
Yeah. Okay.
Or RV Small Talk Podcast pool noodle.
But if you decide to have a slide out and you use a pool noodle to keep it from flapping and that doesn't work, you can
get a better pool noodle.
Well, you could try 2 pool noodles, but
just use a poodle.
Yeah. Is that kind of like a squirrel?
No, stop.
So the only way to stop that from happening, guaranteed, is to close your slide. So to sleep at night, some people close their slide just to stop that noise. You need to be aware that that's part of it.
I never thought about that.
That is just part of having a slide topper. But I think slide toppers are well worth having. They're a great addition. They make everything connected with a slide work better and last longer. So don't let that deter you completely.
And there's a moving part. It's in the sun. It wears out too. So they require a little bit of maintenance. Not that big a deal.
Yeah. It's attached permanently. So you don't get to like put it out and in like your awning. So worth having. Very worth having. Before we get to the biggest fear, which you all know what it is, the next to biggest fear is, but I like to run into my trailer and use the bathroom when we stop.
And I feel like we get a lot of questions here of people that are looking for trailers that can't actually see them on site that say, can you just let me know if I can get to the bathroom when the slide is closed? Because that's a priority for them, which is fine. But a lot of RVs, you can't. You can't get to the bathroom.
That's
or you can't open the fridge or sit in the dinette, or, something is closed off. Just depends on how often you're going to use that thing when you don't have power, when you pull off on the side of the road, or when you stay at a Walmart overnight. Aren't you not allowed to have slides out when you're at a Walmart?
Seems
or
like I've heard that.
Cracker Barrel or something? You have to keep your slides in, so you have to be able to get to the bed. No, am I making that up?
No, I think I've heard that. And I think one of the reasons is if there's an emergency or something like that, they need you to be able to roll.
Oh, that makes sense. And it kind of keeps it from looking like a
and it doesn't
like a
turn
park.
into an RV park.
Well, there's a lot of people who worry about having slide outs because if they're in a Walmart parking lot, they don't want to look like they're really like camping there forever, like squatting.
Right.
They're just trying to get some sleep before they move on.
Right.
But they don't want to look like they're doing that. They want to look like they just parked it there and maybe they're inside shopping.
Right. And if you have your slides out, you're a little bit more conspicuous.
Yep, that's the word.
Anything conspicuous is a bigger target as well.
There's also, if you're at a rest area, can you put your slide out and not hit the person next to you or block the sidewalk? What if your slide out is not on the curbside? It goes out into the driveway at the rest area, and you just want to stop at the rest area and make lunch. So it happens, but sometimes you can make it work by just putting it out 12 inches. And I think that's very doable in most parking lots and in most rest areas.
Now, when you do that, when you don't put it all the way out, kind of in between, you're not fully using those seals. So don't leave your slide in that midway point. Your seals aren't really engaged fully. And you might not want to sit in that dinette if it's not really connected the way it should be.
That's right. You want to be careful of putting too much stuff on your slide. I mean, your slide isn't made to carry an extra 500 pounds going in and out. So be careful what you actually have in there when it's going in and out. But also manufacturers recommend that when you push the button to put it out, you don't push it and stop and start it 2 or 3 times.
Right.
It messes up the timing on a lot of them. So push the button. If you're going to do it partially out, you can do that, but don't be pushing it a little bit more. Check to be sure if it can go all the way out. and push it and hold it down until it's at its final position. That really is the best way to work with your slide out.
You sound like a flight attendant.
I do.
Yeah. In a
Check
good
your
way.
exits here, here, and here.
Push the button until it's fully extended.
Yes.
Now, you said something about the biggest worry, the biggest concern with slides. What is that?
Who can guess it?
Do tell.
What if it gets stuck? What if it gets stuck halfway out? What if it gets stuck all the way out?
What if it gets stuck in?
And
while
then
you're
you can't
in
get
it?
in. And you
Oh
can't
my
use
gosh.
your camper.
I'm so scared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
Well, what if?
What if?
What happens?
well, I think the vast majority of them have a mechanical override. Or at least in the smaller ones, smaller trailers, they use more of the gear system, right?
Well, there's different kind of slide systems and different kind of overrides, but every system has some kind of override. Now, it's not something that may be, a quick, easy access, but there is an override somewhere.
Okay. And
So without going into detail, there's some way to get past it. Unfortunately, if it's a complete failure, you may have a slide out that's shut.
okay.
And then you have to get to a repair station, or you have to get a mobile mechanic to come help you.
Which is what's likely to happen if it's
Yeah.
stuck out.
But I mean, not only is this not very likely going to happen, it doesn't happen very often, but you can really reduce your chances of that happening just by doing maintenance, just by checking on it, just by not just greasing your seals and checking, but also, like you were talking about, look at the alignment of it. Because it's just like anything else. If it gets a little bit out and you keep using it, well, eventually it's going to stop. But if you can catch it when it's a little bit off, then it's usually not a big deal.
Yeah, and the best advice, depending on which system you have, but if it's going out and you see one side's going out a little more than the other, then stop, bring it back in again, and try again.
Yeah, we had an experience with that today, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah. In a truck camper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we fixed it, yeah.
And some people are like, oh, maybe it'll correct itself at the end. But then
Stop
it gets
pushing it. Stop
really
it.
sideways, and then it gets stuck.
Yeah.
A lot of them have a brake on them. It's a pressure. When it gets too much pressure on it, it stops.
Good.
And so that's how you get stuck halfway out. If you see that it's not going out evenly, that's when you bring it back in. And if you work with a slide out, there are ways to reset the timing on them and have them go out straight again.
Yeah.
It isn't, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world, we're done.
And it's likely in your manual.
It is. It is in your manual in most of them. So I don't know. I guess we wanted to talk about generalities. So we're trying not to give you perfect advice on every system because there's a lot to know that you could, depending on the system that you have. But know that I think you can see a lot of these problems coming.
Sure.
And people ignore them, or they hope they'll go away, or they just don't take it in and have it serviced. I think the biggest thing people need to realize, if they're trying to decide if they want to slide out or not, you have to understand that along with a little bit of maintenance, you are going to have some adjustments and some repairs that need to be made. It's just part of it.
Right. But if you want that extra room, then hopefully that won't be a huge deal for you.
Yeah, go for it.
And it's really, I don't think there's a right or wrong. It's whatever your needs are
That's
for
right.
your camper, whether you want to slide or not.
That's
so
right. If you're scared of slides and you spend most of your time outside,
then
maybe
forget a slide.
you don't need a slide.
You don't need a slide.
so I don't know. Let's take a vote here. Would you have a slide on your trailer?
I would take a trailer, slide or no slide.
Okay.
Ditto.
I like I'm all for them.
We all camp in lots of trailers, but
I'm
none of us
certainly-
own one.
I'm certainly not scared of a slide or slide maintenance or a slide killing me in my sleep.
Well, with your two rambunctious kids,
You need the space.
you
I
need
need
the
the
space.
slide.
Yes.
So that wraps up our slide talk. We're going to take a short break, but then we're going to come back because we're going to do some of the common questions we get here. It'll be fairly rapid fire. Hopefully we'll answer some questions that you've always been wondering about.
It has been an interesting week here at Princess Craft.
I'd agree.
Yeah, with all the RV shows, every single customer, it seems like, that comes in is really got like this huge list of questions. And a lot of them are newbies, so they have a ton of questions, and they come in and ask the weirdest things, so we started writing them down. And these guys have wrote down questions from customers this week, and then a few that they remember from previous times. And we're going to talk about them because
One of them Clint just made up.
one of them,
See if you can spot the fake.
yeah. Well, I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm excited because we do hear some of the craziest things here. Yeah, I love show season. It just brings out all the fun.
Okay. Well, are you ready? Because we're leaning on
ready.
you for the answers.
Yeah, we don't know the
so I have
answers.
to answer these?
Yes.
Okay. Well, is it Stump PJ Day, huh?
Pretty much.
No, you know the answer. There.
Okay.
Hopefully, if you're listening, you will get some of your questions answered as well. Maybe this is something you've always wondered. So let's start with
Question number 1.
ding. Is that what we're going to do there?
No, that's fine.
Whatever you want, Lindsay.
So, talking about RV holding tanks, some of them have a black tank and a gray tank. Some of them have a combined tank. What does that mean, and which one is better?
What was that mean? That's a big question.
Okay, but go.
You've got toilet water, and then you've got shower and kitchen sink water,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
They're in 2 separate tanks 99% of the time.
Okay.
But some of the new things out there have a combined tank,
What
including
is-
some of the Airstreams, right?
So, what is a combined tank? I mean, it just all goes into one place.
Yes, that means the gray and the black goes into one place.
So, why would that be a bad thing?
Why would it be a good thing?
That was my next question. I was getting there.
Oh,
I think it all just comes down to people being paranoid about, do they have enough tank space?
Oh, okay.
I think that's
Okay.
all it comes down to.
I don't know. I would worry about black tank smell coming up through my kitchen sink.
Ew.
Well,
That doesn't happen.
that's not going to happen.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. That's bound
That's
to
a
be a
good
worry.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not
That's not
sure
gonna
if we
happen.
answered that question, but
No, I
there.
don't think we did.
Well, there are a few with combined black and gray, but there aren't many.
And there's not much of a difference of how you
Yeah.
empty them or maintain them or.
You just treat it as a black tank.
All right.
One,
If you
one
have
tank,
a
it's a black
combo,
tank.
you treat it as a black tank. That's
Yeah.
right. It has to be dumped just like a black tank. The thing to look at here is how much fresh water do you have, how much gray water can you store, and how much black water. Most people use a whole lot more gray water than black water.
Uh-huh.
So how do you camp? How do you use your trailer? Is that going to work for you? Usually trailers got a fair amount of tanks.
So if you're using black water treatment, that you just use the same treatment in a combined tank. Then
That's right.
Okay.
Treat it like black water.
Treat it like
Always.
a black tank. It is a
Okay.
black tank.
It is
Got
a black tank.
Y'all are going to like this next question because, well, it's a very customer oriented question.
Yeah,
Do we hear this every day or what? Right?
pretty much.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Question number 2.
2.
Ding.
Ding.
Why does it take so long to get my RV fixed at a dealership?
Gosh, there could be a couple of reasons. The top reasons are a whole lot of people want to get RVs repaired, and there's just not that many technicians to work on them.
It is not like car repair shops
Yeah.
that are on every corner and kind of work on everything.
In fact, most of the dealerships out there don't even have service centers. Not a full-fledged service center, right?
Some of them don't. And that's a good question to ask if you're buying from a dealer. Do they have a service center?
I wouldn't say most.
Even if they're not nearby, then a lot of people will say, oh, yeah, but wherever you go, the other guy will work on it for you. Well, it's maybe not what you want to hear. But it's tough to get enough technicians to work on it. That's the number one reason. The other reason is it gets delayed because a lot of the parts have to come from the manufacturers. And that can be a really slow process. You know what? They are going to have that little piece, whether it's a plumbing part, a door handle, a trim piece. They're going to have it on their line of manufacturing, but they don't want to pull it off their line. They've already got it slated to go on the trailers they're manufacturing. So when they send parts to us, they don't want to pull it out of their line. They pull it out of their back stock. They don't want to stock a bunch that they don't need. So they order it from somebody else, wait for it to come to them, then they ship it to us. The industry is working on repair event cycle time. It's a huge thing that the National Association, the RVDA, is working on, and trying to help with the parts going around. So even if you get it into a shop, they take a look at it, it can take weeks. It is not like an auto repair shop where parts are available within hours or a day at the most.
Right.
And they're all, in little queues and you can pull up a part number. It just doesn't work like that. It is the Wild West when it comes to parts. So a lot of times that's the delay as well.
So the first two reasons is because there are fewer locations to service
fewer technicians and service bays to actually help you.
And that's another problem in the industry is there aren't enough trained technicians out there as well.
That's right.
So
and then it's really tough to get the exact part that you need sometimes. It just takes time. So it's not like an auto repair shop where you can assume that when you take it in within a day, they're going to look at it and within 2 or 3 days, they're going to have it fixed and back to you. It just can't always work that way depending on the problem. It's just the way the system works.
If there's a repair shop,
unfortunately,
and it's a decent repair shop, it probably has a line right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And just got to get on the schedule.
And some people get up to 6 weeks. So I always say, as long as they're staying in touch with you, that's a good repair shop. If they're doing everything they can do and communicating with you, sometimes that's the best you can ask for.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I think our next question number 3, kind of has the same answer, which is why can't I get a manufacturer to build me a kind of a custom trailer? We get a lot of requests for, I want this, but instead of the couch, I actually want 2 chairs. I want a washer and dryer here.
I've had so many ask about, hey, can you build this trailer or this truck camper with a slide, but with no dinette in it?
Right. Yeah. And I'll let you answer, but the same reason why it takes a while to get them serviced is...
Well, it seems like you could just say, well, just delete that cabinet because I want to put something else there. Or, so it sounds easy, doesn't it? But there is more to it. It isn't like rearranging the furniture in your house. In a trailer, that cabinet is part of the overall construction, and it's been engineered for the entire set to work. The other problem is wiring, plumbing, the design of it. If you take the dinette out, maybe underneath that dinette seat's a water heater. So then what? What do you do with the water heater?
It's part of the trailer.
That's right.
So,
and we have seen actually some dinettes pulled out of slide outs, and the slide out becomes less stable because they use the dinette to actually brace the corners.
Part of the structure. The engineering was planned to make it more rigid using the internal components.
That's right. But you know what? Another angle to that is manufacturers don't want to do that because guess what? You say, it should be pretty easy, right? Just leave the dinette out. It saves you some time. Well, even if it was that easy, it requires a lot of people putting their hands on it, notating that it's a special build.
Right.
So
they have to keep track of it all the way down the line to make sure it's not doing the normal route that the other trailers would do. And
or it has to come off the line
easy.
And somebody, as one person has to do those jobs specifically because all the trim pieces they cut don't fit now and all the finish out doesn't work. They're doing things that they've never done before. So if they do it in a way that maybe doesn't hold up, you're going to want to hold them accountable, right? So many manufacturers just say, you know what? This is how we do it. When you get it, you can take it to a specialist and change it.
This is how we do it.
That's right. So that's why you can't get special builds.
All
Rearrange your furniture on your own.
Okay, so here's the next one. Can my wife and kids ride in the trailer or truck camper while we're traveling?
I wish I could stick them back there. Also, that question is sexist. Did you write that one?
Well, I did type it.
Yeah, it's totally sexist.
Oh, my husband and my kids in the trailer.
Okay, can other humans?
Can animals?
Related
That's
to
one
me.
that I hear a lot. Can my dog ride in the trailer?
And not to be a smart aleck, but of course they can.
Right.
It's pretty smart alecky.
It is.
It's on the delivery.
Yeah. They can go in the door, you can shut it, and you can drive down the road. Should they?
And in most states, you don't want to get caught.
Yeah, because it's probably illegal. But there are some states where, especially with truck campers, it is not specifically illegal. However, it is not specifically legal either.
It's a bad idea.
It generally is a bad idea. Now, do people do it? Yeah. And with pets, there are some people, I know of people who especially have cats that they leave in their camper or their trailer in a specific carrier in a place, and they're much happier there for whatever reason. I don't think that's necessarily bad. Do you?
No, and I think that there's something to be said when it's talking about your pets of them not being, you find in whatever mode stresses them out the least.
Right. When it comes to humans, probably, especially if you're talking travel trailers or truck campers, they're not going to have a seatbelt. So if there is an accident, it's ugly. And that trailer or truck camper is really bouncy. So
yeah, I was about to say it's not nearly as much fun as it sounds.
It is not.
The trailer is actually, it's not like it's smooth. It's bumping around.
And I've been in a trailer moving just from one campsite to another. Now, I do not want to be back there on the highway. I mean, watch
Not
the
fun.
long trailer, the one with the Lucy,
A train?
Desi and Lucy. I mean, it's overdone, but it's not really true because she wouldn't be able to stand up and walk around. It's bouncy. Even with the best suspensions, it's bouncy. So yeah, people still ask that. And the answer is, can you? Yes. Should you? No. Just no.
All right. I like this question. We get it a lot because we deal with smaller trailers. We deal with teardrops. So, and I guess if you don't get it, you don't get it. But it's still fun to answer. How does someone even use a teardrop trailer? You can't stand up. There's no bathroom. You have to cook outside, and there's no shower. How do you camp?
How does someone use a pup tent? There's no bathroom. You can't stand up in it. Right?
But this is a trailer.
Okay.
It should have all the amenities.
Yeah, it's different.
So some of them are pup tents with wheels. Right?
It's closer to traditional camping, so you just camp in it like your traditional camping.
Do you know what you do?
You make choices.
When you love camping in small trailers and when you love teardrops, you figure it out.
I have trouble with that. Every piece of gear is a different animal. I mean,
and honestly,
look at a woolly bear
and
by Taxa.
My deal is, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. That's fine, because some people really enjoy that style of camping. That's their dream. And they can have a blast doing it. If it doesn't make sense to you and it's just not something you want to do, fine. Find the format that works for you.
Whatever works for you. Maybe the answer is simpler. How do you camp in a teardrop that you can't stand up in and doesn't have a bathroom? Well, you don't. You crawl in it and you sleep.
You camp outside of it.
And then you get outside.
Exactly.
And you do everything else outside.
Exactly.
How do you, there's, to me, that is as crazy as, how do you camp in a, 33-foot fifth wheel with 3 slides? Well, you don't. You live in it, you exist in it, and you camp.
Well, I could camp
outside.
in that. I'm just not going to pull it.
You're just not going to pull
well,
it.
It's
everybody does it different.
You define what you think an enjoyable time would be. And you go find a solution to make that happen.
That's right. I think a better question would be, how do you camp without a trailer? Because people do.
Yeah.
They camp without a trailer.
Camp without a trailer. Okay.
Right?
All right. Next question.
Okay. Now that we've worn the wheels off that one.
Lindsay, you choose another one.
I've been choosing all of them.
Yeah, but you jumped around. I'm
Children.
lost.
I did jump around. I got all my favorite ones. I don't know. Pick one.
Okay, I see one. Why aren't there any RV handicap accessible? Why aren't there?
Try again.
Okay, maybe. Okay,
again.
Will you read that correctly?
Why aren't many RVs handicap accessible?
Yeah. Why aren't they?
Well, because they're not. There are a few trailers out there that are. And I believe Jayco makes one. And
I think Winnebago just made a model specifically to be. Now you still have to order it with a bigger portal.
maybe Winnebago is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
You have to order it that way. So
But the
I
vast
would love
majority
for
don't have
that
the
to
option.
happen. I would love to have that happen.
Yeah, and I think the main thing is the doorway. The doorway is never wide enough. So is the reason
Right.
why the doorway is not wider, is that a structural thing, or is that just kind of like how that's the size of an RV door?
Well, think about if you're designing a trailer and you run out of wall space. You've got to have enough kitchen counters. You've got to have enough wall space for the back of a sofa. Then you want a dinette, and then you want an entertainment center. So you don't want the
You'll
door
take
to
all of
take
that
up.
over a wide door.
You don't need a 36-inch door. You
Right.
need more wall space for the other things.
And then
So that's really, I
yeah.
think, where it starts.
Some Class A's.
Yeah, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah.
Some Class A's are wheelchair accessible.
Well, if it's Class A, I imagine you can install even lifts and all that to help you get a
Right.
wheelchair in and out.
Absolutely. And some nice toy haulers people use for handicap accessible.
I guess that's
Trailers.
actually a good reason to even consider a toy hauler. One of the higher end toy haulers, it's just a built-in ramp.
Yeah, you have a built-in,
built-in
ramp.
ramp.
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly if you have larger motorized scooters or wheelchairs that you can roll in the back and maybe use a different one inside.
What that doesn't cover is maybe doorways into a bathroom or something like that. You may still need a wider
Yeah.
portal there.
There are a few out there. Why aren't there more? I don't know. That's a very good question. I wish there were. And I wish there were more trailers that actually advertise that, because we get that a lot. We actually have several wheelchair customers that we've worked with and been able to find units that did what they needed them to do.
Yeah, I think
that
we
they
have a
could work
couple
with.
that work, like the Intex.
But again, I think it's just like a teardrop. It has to be that style of camping that you want. If
Yeah.
you want a Class A, you're not going to want to get in a Pursue or a basic toy hauler. So there ought to be stuff all the way across. And I think that's a good question for another podcast. Let's do our homework and find out all the options that we can find out there and what could be done.
That is a great idea for a
It is.
podcast.
It is. I think it's great. Good question. What's next?
All right. So this one comes up a lot with us, and we're going to hear it a ton at our next show
Okay.
because everyone's seeing all the things. Why do truck campers cost so much when compared to bigger trailers?
Oh, I think I answer this question just without thinking anymore.
Right.
So many times. So truck campers are the most expensive real estate there is. Trailers, there's several reasons that they're more expensive. The first reason that I usually cite is that trailers are boxes. And if you build houses, you know that building a box is cheaper than building something with lots of dormers and angles on the side of it. And anytime you have to change direction, cut and fit for angles, brace them, it's more expensive. Not to mention, in a truck camper, you've got a cab over. So that cantilever has to be supported.
Right.
So it requires a little more time building the structure and putting it together.
Well, I think the engineering piece of that, I mean, you're dealing with different shapes just with the trucks. They're not all
That's right.
They're not all the same, different truck beds and all that. The engineering to make something that is going to hold up to what a
Right.
truck camper goes through and contain all the stuff that they're putting in them these days.
Yes. Well, and I try to tell people inside a truck camper, for the most part, it's got the same equipment as a trailer. The only thing it doesn't have is the chassis, which most people don't realize how cheap you can get a standard steel chassis and axles. That's really not very expensive. Whereas a truck camper, the 4 jacks that hold it up, they're as expensive as a chassis. So you don't save any money. It's still got a stove. It's still got a water pump, a water heater, an air conditioner, furnace. It's got all the same gear,
Right.
but it has to be built strong enough to hold itself up because it's not sitting on that steel chassis. So it has to hold up to hanging by 4 posts for the rest of its life with a cantilevered front. So the engineering is tougher. The real estate is small, But the only thing you're losing there is going to be a little bit of framing and outside, which is really relatively cheap. And the last reason that I cite is that, you know what? There aren't as many of them built on that line as there are travel trailers if you're looking at a major manufacturer. And volume lowers the cost. So that's a piece of it as well. So real estate generally in truck campers is probably one of the most expensive you can buy in comparative products. So you have to have a reason to want a truck camper, and there's lots of reasons.
You know, I think the reason that always comes to my mind is you can get that expensive real estate to some more remote locations more easily.
That's right. 2 reasons. You either don't want to tow anything for lots of great reasons, or you want to tow something other than your trailer.
Right.
Like a horse trailer, a boat. Who knows?
Sure.
Truck campers are just more versatile in general.
Yeah.
You can do more things with them. You can go more places.
There just aren't as many made.
And you're going to pay a little bit more for them. So,
That's
so
right.
that you can do all the things.
That's why truck camper people really love them, because they forked out the bucks.
Truck camper people
it's
are
what they
truck
wanted.
camper people.
That's right. What's next?
Well, I think this one's interesting because it's a little bit outside the realm of the actual equipment. Why do you guys do YouTube videos instead of the trailer manufacturers? Wouldn't they know their products better and make better videos?
Well, probably they would.
But why are we doing it and why aren't
Why are
they?
you asking me that? Why don't we ask them?
Well,
Actually, I think the trends have changed. Manufacturers are doing videos now, and they are doing some. They're not consistent. Their advertising doesn't kind of run in that vein. They just don't do videos as part of their marketing campaign. They print brochures and want the dealerships to do the rest of the promoting. Most people don't have in-house advertising groups like that. I think some of the better ones, they're getting better at it. They're figuring out they need to be visible out there, answer questions, and connect to their buyers. Almost every nice manufacturer out there, by nice I mean like a high-end manufacturer like an Airstream, a Lance, they've got owners groups. They connect to them. They have rallies. They have get-togethers. They do a few technical videos. As far as walkthroughs, they usually hire people that already have an audience to do that. We've had people hire us to do that. And so I think that's why. I think that they want somebody who already has an audience to do it. I don't know. We have fun doing it. That's why we do it. We started out years and years ago with people just saying, hey, will you just show me around this trailer because I'm, 1,000 miles away.
Right. And I feel like it became...
And that's where ours started.
Yeah, it became such a resource to the people we directly work with, who need information, who just really, they can't get the walkthrough again because they're a few states away.
Yeah. And then we get the emails that say, hey, would you do a walkthrough on this? And we're like, oh, okay. Yeah, we'll try that. And then it ended up just being what it is. So, yeah, I think that's just not their wheelhouse. They're getting better at it. They're getting better at connecting.
All right. Lindsay, do you have any more questions?
Nope.
I don't want to run too long on this.
Yeah, I'm good. That was fun, though. We got some questions answered. Maybe we didn't answer your question. And if we didn't, then send it to us so that we can answer it in a future podcast.
Right. Right.
We like questions. We like to stump PJ.
Well, you just got to cut me off because I'll talk for hours.
Well, I know that. Shall we wrap this up?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed having the discussion on slide outs because I think it's informative and because it demystifies them a little bit, makes them less scary.
Hopefully you are not scared of slide outs.
Nah.
There's not much reason to be these days, really. And then these questions, whenever we go into these question scenarios like this, it's the most, grassroots level of being useful to our audience. And I love that.
Well, yeah, and being able to pick the brain of somebody like PJ who is in the dealership part of it, been around it for a long time, it's different than asking a manufacturer trying to sell you something. So that's kind of fun to hear it from a different angle.
Well, I tell you, I learned everything that I know from people like Scott who's watching and people who comment, people who trained me and corrected me when I was wrong. We never
We
mind
love being
that.
corrected.
Yeah, we love learning like everybody. We're just part of the community. So I like doing this. I love saying something that I learned along the way, and I just hope it's useful somewhere out there in the world.
So thank you for joining us for this episode of RV Small Talk. If you haven't already, follow us on social media, subscribe, and a rating on Apple Podcasts is always welcome. It really helps us put the podcast out there so other people can see it.
Sure. We're out there on places like Stitcher. That's another podcast application. Stitcher, Podbean,
Spotify,
iHeartRadio, so many.
All the things.
Just do a search for us, and we appreciate a subscribe. Now, you can contact us at rvsmalltalk.com. Send us your questions, send messages. We didn't have a submission for our photo contest.
No, but we will this week.
Yeah,
Send
so that's the challenge.
Of your rig, of you camping, your favorite place to camp. We just want to connect with our audience. You can send pictures to rvsmalltalk@gmail.com. We will pick our favorite, and for next week's podcast, we will show it on our show notes and send that person a free RV Small Talk t-shirt. Speaking of our show notes, you can see everything at rvsmalltalk.com.
Very good.
I think I'm done talking.
I think we've covered all the business, right?
All the business.
Well,
That's
everybody, thank you so much for joining us for this recording of the RV Small Talk podcast. And we will see you next time.
We'll see you next time.
That's right.
Bye-bye.